last season, it was, okay, classic Pittsburgh Steelers defense. They're amazing. T.J. Watt's the best defensive player on planet Earth. Okay? They draft really well. George Pickens, holy crap, that kid is talented. Najee Harris is productive. Jalen Warren, one of the steals of a draft last year. Okay? Deontay Johnson, who's no longer a Steeler, he's a Panther now. Productive guy. Pat Freiermuth, good. Offensive line, progressively getting better. Mike Tomlin, great coach. And the offensive coordinator has zero creativity whatsoever, and the quarterback situation is one of the worst in the NFL. And when reports had surfaced over the last few months that the Steelers were strongly considering sticking with Kenny Pickett, and that the new hired offensive coordinator, Arthur Smith, who I said the day he was hired, love this hire, look at the success he had in Tennessee with Ryan Tannehill of all guys. I'm like, you're really going to run this back with Kenny Pickett? In a division with Joe Burrow, Lamar Jackson, and whoever Cleveland runs out there next year, who knows? We'll see. But whoever it is, Deshaun Watson, Joe Flacco, who's a Colt now, whoever, they're better than Kenny Pickett. It would make me sort of reconsider, okay, is this just about maintaining the non-losing record streak for Mike Tomlin, or is this about winning? My apologies, Coach Tomlin. And my apologies, Omar Khan, the general manager of the Steelers. They make two of the best bargain deals for quarterbacks that I've seen. So last week, they go out and get Russell Wilson for $1.2 million after he was released from the Denver Broncos. Keep in mind, this is a Russell Wilson who was better than the entire Steelers quarterback room a year ago. By the way, all stats and graphics provided by Alfred Parsard Jr. at the Grid. Shout out to Alfred. He cooked up this graphic for you, okay? Pittsburgh's quarterback room last year, all of last season, 13 touchdown passes, 9 picks, about 201 yards per game passing, 66.3% completion, passer rating of about 90, and Mason Rudolph's 3 games really goosed those numbers a lot. Russell is better. And listen, I've been critical of Russ more than that in just a second. Russell is better in literally every statistical category. Double the touchdowns in less games, less picks, more yards per game, slightly better completion percentage, and a sizably better passer rating near 100. Russell Wilson is no longer the Russell Wilson that he was in Seattle. That's not debatable, of course, and we all know that. And I have been very critical of Russ in particular, as a former fan of Russ, in particular of his leadership. He doesn't have to be the leader in Pittsburgh, nor does he really even have to be the driving force of the offense. Keep in mind, again, Steelers quarterback room, 13 touchdown passes last year. Guys by name of Pickett, Trubisky, and Rudolph, all 3 of which are on new teams now, got them to 10 wins and a playoff berth in a game that they were somewhat competitive with Buffalo, although Buffalo was better throughout. 10 wins in the AFC North. Now, Burrow went down, I understand that, but that Cleveland defense, Pittsburgh won a game against them, swept Baltimore. Number 1 seed in the NFL, in the AFC. MVP of the league, Lamar Jackson, John Harbaugh, great roster, swept the Baltimore Ravens. Got wins over good playoff teams and solid playoff contenders throughout the year. With great defense, situational offense in the fourth quarter, with objectively awful quarterback play. So now you go from the worst quarterback room in football to a Russell Wilson who certainly, while no longer elite, we saw now that he's separated from Nathaniel Hackett, he's not the bad quarterback that he was in 2022. Is it possible Russell Wilson can be the 16th, 17th best quarterback in the NFL? And you would say, Bryson, that's not exactly great. Are you winning Super Bowls? Of course you're not winning Super Bowls if Russell Wilson's your starter, unless your roster is like San Francisco. But if you can win 10 games with 3 backup quarterbacks starting for you for 17 games, 18 games, if you want to include the playoff loss to Buffalo, you mean to tell me they can't get to 11 and, dare I say, if they get the right matchup, a playoff win with Russell Wilson? So they go from an unbelievably low ceiling quarterback room led by Kenny Pickett to a low-ish ceiling with Russ, but a high floor now that he's got a good creative offensive coordinator with Arthur Smith, weapons, including George Pickens, including Jalen Warren, Najee Harris, Pat Freiermuth. Reports saying the Steelers could add either Tyler Boyd or Mike Williams and maybe draft a guy. Yeah, that works. So the veteran, sure thing, plug-and-play guy, ready to go. And if Russell doesn't work, you're not going back to Kenny Pickett because they traded him to the Philadelphia Eagles. Thank God. Hearing the reports of Kenny Pickett and how bad of a teammate he was. After the Russell Wilson trade, folks, reportedly Kenny Pickett canceled workouts with his wide receivers. So as a horrible look, and Kenny Pickett doubled down on it today in his Philadelphia Eagles press conference, saying that, I don't regret how I handled the situation. I handled it the right way. Happy trails, Kenny. Philadelphia is the right place for you. Point being, if Russell Wilson doesn't work, first of all, okay, costs $1.2 million. Who cares? 1-year contract. You move on. And you can also move to a kid who's not as good as Russ, but has a very high ceiling and is much younger than Russ in Justin Fields. If we include his rushing stats, let's compare Justin Fields to the Steelers quarterback room a year ago. Justin Fields, again, including rushing stats, 20 touchdowns to the Steelers, 13. Just as many interceptions. So, again, not great. Way more yards per game, 46 more yards per game with Justin. Again, his legs are a significant factor in that. Less of a completion percentage and slightly less of a passer rating. We understand that. But has Justin Fields not been viewed, sorry for my cracked voice, has Justin Fields not been viewed as the prototypical project quarterback where, man, his floor, man, yikes. But his ceiling, well, we've seen it. Now, am I saying Justin Fields is going to be Michael Vick? Probably not. Does he have the potential to be that? Sure. With good coaching, a good defense backing him up, good weapons, a stable culture in Pittsburgh, a mentor in Russell Wilson, who seems to be all into the Steelers culture. We'll see how time goes on. We'll see. But thus far, good stuff I'm seeing from Russ in these press conferences. I don't know. Seems like that works. So the Steelers, they did something that I was not 100% sure they were capable of. In that, in the Mike Tomlin era, it has been about defense first, and we're going to play complementary offense. Now, some of those Big Ben teams with Antonio Brown, Le'Veon Bell, Martavis Bryant back in the day, those were some explosive offenses who happened to have terrible defenses that just didn't, the timelines were really off there. Once the Steelers defense got good, the offense tailed off because Big Ben got hurt, and the offensive, the quarterback situation was not good in Pittsburgh. Mike Tomlin's been a defense-first guy, and I feel like that's came at the expense of kind of adapting and adjusting to the modern offensive game. This shows me I was dead wrong on that. The willingness to pivot after 2 years, and I've always had the Bill Parcells rule, right? Bill Parcells used to say, and I think in some cases it remains true, although you could argue maybe it doesn't now, that you give a quarterback 3 years when you draft him, especially in the first round. First year, developmental year, just he's going to go through growing pains. Year 2, you need to see a big jump from year 1, and if by year 3 you're still not certain if he's the guy, you move on. Pittsburgh said, yeah, Kenny's not the guy. Arm strength is not there. Accuracy is really hit and miss. Athleticism's fine. It's not close to, some of the other quarterbacks, in particular Justin Fields, that we've seen. The ceiling just flat out is not that high. And we're not going to be loyal, which to me is one of the worst words in sports in many cases. We're not going to be loyal to the guy just because he played at Pitt and we used a first-round pick on him. We are going to do what the Giants, prime example, still have not done and really can't do now that they're paying the guy so much money, didn't do with Daniel Jones. Be like, yeah, he's not that good. We need to move on. Pittsburgh, to their credit, and this is why they've won 6 Super Bowls, the willingness to make the smart decisions and the smart, hard decisions when they need to be made, sat out there and said, this is not going to win a Super Bowls, and that's the standard in Pittsburgh. Mike Tomlin has said, and I've challenged him on this. See, because how much respect I have for Mike Tomlin, I hold him to a certain level. The standard is the standard. And over the last few years, I'm like, is the standard 9-8, 10-7, maintain the non-losing streak thing? Is that what they're gunning for at this point? Just to maintain a streak rather than take 1 step back to go 2 steps forward? It appears that Mike Tomlin said, yeah, this is about winning Lombardis in Pittsburgh. Omar Khan said the same thing. You could argue Mr. Rooney in the front office, the owner of the team, was kind of who sparred these two guys to go out and make these necessary changes. So again, if Russell doesn't work, if Fields doesn't work, you draft a guy. And who's better at drafting players than Pittsburgh? Now, in fairness, to me, I've said this many times on the show, finding a franchise quarterback is probably the single hardest thing to do in sports. Because he could be the first overall pick in the draft. He could be undrafted. He could go Mr. Irrelevant Brock Purdy. He could go 10th pick Patrick Mahomes. He could go mid-rounds Dak Prescott, Kirk Cousins. He could go pick 199 Tom Brady. It's quarterbacks come in all different shapes and sizes. But when you find your guy, you better keep him. But you got to find him first, which is unbelievably difficult and is not down to exact science. Otherwise, a lot of teams would have found their quarterback by now. See Chicago, who looks like they'll be taking Caleb Williams. More on that in a couple of minutes. But I think Pittsburgh doing what they did shows that, okay, they have evolved as an organization in the sense of loyalty is nice. You know, loyalty is good when you're loyal to the right things. You should be loyal to TJ Watt. He's awesome. You should be loyal thus far. You know, he's still a young player, to George Pickens and to Jalen Warren. Guys like Alex Highsmith, you know, but be aggressive. Go and get Patrick Queen for the Baltimore Ravens. Steal your again, second best linebacker probably in the division, right? And Patrick Queen. Steal him from your biggest rival, the Baltimore Ravens. When you look across the board, Steelers are aggressive on defense, aggressive going out and getting quarterbacks. And there's a report that came out today on the Rich Eisen show. I forget what the guy's name is. I apologize for not quoting the guy. That the Steelers are reportedly going after another number one receiver type guy. That's not Mike Williams, by the way. So as a Steelers fan, I'm feeling good. Am I expecting Super Bowls? Of course I'm not expecting Super Bowls in 2024. They're not on the level to compete with Kansas City yet. Or frankly, not even with Baltimore to compete for Super Bowls. Not yet. I don't think they're on the level. Buffalo's taking a million steps back, so we'll see what they are. But Kansas City, Pittsburgh still a ways away from that. But are they building in the right direction? Are they adapting as a franchise? No question about it. And I commend Mike Tomlin and I commend Omar Khan. And I'm willing to sit back and say, I have questions about y'all. But as the Shaq meme goes, remember the Shaq meme when he's talking to Christian Wood? I apologize. I wasn't familiar with your game. Shout out to Omar Khan. Shout out to Mike Tomlin, the Pittsburgh Steelers. Right back in business. Thanks so much for watching the show on YouTube, and be sure to go click that big red subscribe button and check out the other clips and full shows from Carving It Up Live, as well as our other incredible content creators here on the Grid Network.